This episode is brought to you by State Farm. From your morning podcast to your afternoon playlist, State Farm knows you personalize your entire day, and that's why State Farm helps you personalize your insurance with the State Farm Personal Price Plan. It offers coverage options that help protect what you care about most at an affordable price just for you. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices vary by state. Options selected by customer. Availability and eligibility may vary.
Welcome back to I Want That Too, the podcast where Disney merch meets Disney history. I'm entertainer-writer Jim Hill, and as always, I'm joined by the lovely Lauren Hersey. And how are you tonight, Lauren?
Cold, Jim. Cold. It's here in Wheeling. It's been very, very cold and very snowy, which has kept us in the house. So looking for things to do. You know, we were just talking about how I've been failing at my no spend January. I'll blame the weather. Like, what are you gonna do? You're scrolling on Amazon or social media or whatever it is. So I've totally failed at that. But what's new with you? I mean, I have to ask, I guess, as a merch show, like, have you bought anything interesting since the holidays?
Well, look, I'm a 65-year-old male. I'm a pain in the ass to shop for, so people give me gift cards. And so I have been availing these thoughtful gifts from friends and family and expanding my library. And for example, just tonight, the Amazon rolled up the driveway and delivered this behemoth of a book. This is Disney's Hercules, which is The Art of Gerald's Scarf. And what's interesting about that is that Hercules was in the works after The Lion King. And there was just this concern that we want this to look different. We don't want Disney's animated features to effectively be the ice cream section where French vanilla is next to vanilla bean, which is next to old-fashioned vanilla. And somebody came up with the idea of reaching out to British caricaturist Gerald Scarfe with the notion of, what do you think the gods would look like for the Hercules story? And what's especially interesting about this book, Lauren, is that in here, have you ever heard the story about Hades for Hercules and who Disney originally wanted to be the voice of Hades for that movie?
No, do tell.
Well, you have to understand this is the project that Ron Clements and John Musker worked on after Aladdin. And Aladdin, of course, had Robin Williams in it. And it at that time was the highest grossing animated film that Disney had ever made until The Lion King came along. And so they were like, we'd love to do that again. We'd love to have a voice in this movie that's so distinct that people would actually come out to the theaters to see what that actor was like animated. So they put together a wish list. And he said, well, who would be the guy that we really, really, really would like to be the villain in this movie, who would be an amazing voice for Hades? And it's like, well, there's really only one choice, and it's Jack Nicholson.
Oh.
And that was the thing. They told Gerald Scarfe, and I don't know if I can find it. I'll send you a copy of the image, but it's basically what Gerald did is painted Jack Nicholson as Hades as if Jack is at a Lakers game in L.A., sitting courtside with his dark sunglasses on. And but the interesting thing is that they then get Danny DeVito to do the voice of Philoctetes, Hercules' coach in the movie. And they mentioned in passing to Danny that, well, we'd really love to have Jack be the voice of Hades, but we don't know how to get a hold of him. And he's like, I've known Jack for like 20 years. Let me get on the phone. And the thing of it is that Nicholson actually came in and had a meeting with Disney. And in fact, Disney was so startled when he showed up. He brought his daughter. I want to say her name was Audrey. And he brought her, and he came to the lot with her in full Snow White garb. And they pitched the entire movie to him, and he was like, oh, yeah, I want to do this. And they're like, oh, my God, we're going to get Jack Nicholson for the voice of Hades. And unfortunately, Jack actually wanted money In fact, Jack wanted the exact same deal that he got from Warner Brothers to make the Tim Burton Batman movie when he played the Joker. And Jack got a chunk of every piece of Batman merchandise that featured the Joker. If it was underwear, if it was socks, it was an action figure, Jack Nicholson got a cut of it. And so he just said, I'll be happy to make your Hercules movie. All I want is a chunk of every single piece of Hades merchandise. And Disney was like, thank you for coming by. That's never going to happen.
And by the way, your daughter looks very cute.
Exactly. Thank you for buying her that outfit at the Disney store. But we're not working together. You want money. But anyway.
Well, anyway, sounds like an interesting book. And what an interesting story. And we have more interesting stories on today's episode of I Want That Too. We are going to give you guys some updates on some new merch that is at Walt Disney World that we had talked about before, some tech updates from CES, and we're going to be talking about High School Musical in today's feature, right, Jim?
Go figure. Yeah. But before we do that, we have to take a moment to thank our sponsor. And today's episode of I Want That Too is brought to you by our friends at Be Our Guest Vacation. And planning your next Disney getaway? Let me tell you, these folks are the real deal. Be Our Guest Vacation is a platinum-level earmarked travel agency, which means that Disney itself recognizes them as one of the best in the business. Their team of expert agents offers concierge-level services to take the stress out of planning, so all you have to do is show up and enjoy the magic. And by the way, they don't just handle Disney either. Whether it's Universal or cruises or adventures around the globe, they've got you covered. And the very best part, their services are completely free. Yep, you heard that right. World-class planning at no extra cost.
Well, that is incredible. You should check out our friends at beourguestvacations.com and let them take care of the vacation planning. Take a little bit of the stress out of your life, right?
There we go. Okay, so now on to the news. And we're starting off by following up on something you covered on an earlier edition of I Want That Too. Is that correct?
Yes. Well, I told you a couple episodes ago about the plush hats that I saw at our latest trip to Disney World in December. And remember, you said, where were you? Were you in like Boston? And you're like, I would have paid hundreds of dollars for one of those plush hats.
Yes.
Because you were so cold.
They look warm. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So when I was talking about the plush hats, and then they were just kind of teasing these new, they're called mini mix-it plush dolls. They kind of look like the Park Pals that, have the magnetic hands that hook to your belt bag or your backpack. So they finally made their way to Disney World, and I found out what the hats were on the little characters. And so I know that it's not like breaking news or anything crazy, but I did think I could share some clarity around what these little cute characters have on their heads.
Okay, please do, because they are colorful but weird looking.
They're weird. Yeah, they're weird looking. And so I was showing Eric yesterday, and he was like, wait, like, can you buy the hat separate? Can I get like an adult hat along with my little figure? And no, right now the hats come on the mini plush. And so the Magic Kingdom series, the first one is easy. You could take a guess. So the little Mickey Mouse, he is wearing a Tiki Room inspired hat. And so it is a parrot.
Okay. I wouldn't have got that.
Now the other one.
All right. Okay.
I think I got that one. I think I got that one. Now the other three, I had no idea. Okay. So next one up is we've got Donald. And it looked like, I think I said on, the episode we were covering it looked like a rocket ship on his head. I was not that far from it. It's Astro Orbiter inspired.
Oh, okay. All right. Light shines over Marblehead here. So I'm going to hazard a guess looking at the Winnie the Pooh one. That's a gargoyle from the Haunted Mansion. Is that what that's supposed to be?
It is. I didn't guess that. Like if you see it from far away, it kind of looks like a like a monster teddy bear, something like a fork and knife in his hand, but it
Yeah.
is the gargoyle.
Okay, that I can see. And so looking at Minnie now, that's a carousel horse? Is that what that's supposed to be?
Yeah, listen, I never would have guessed in a million years. I said it was a unicorn, so I apologize
Okay.
if I led you down the wrong
No,
path here,
no.
but it is Prince Charming's Regal Carousel
Okay.
inspired
Well,
headwear.
without context, it makes no sense. But once you put it in context, it's like, okay, I get that. But on the other hand, I if you held a gun to my head, the bird on Mickey's head, I would have never said parrot. I would have maybe said orange bird, but somebody got the color wrong.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I can see that. And then, if you're down in the parks for Valentine's Day, they added 2 new mini mix-its to the collection. You have Stitch with a very festive heart on his head. It is a heart plush hat.
Okay.
And alongside of Stitch, we have Angel, and she's wearing a lovely Valentine's bonnet. I don't know how else to describe it.
Okay. I got that it was Angel, but yeah, I'm still not sure. I think it does look heart-shaped, but like in an anatomically correct heart, like she's looking out through an aorta. I don't know what to make of that. So
Please Google it if you're listening.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're $19.99. You can get them now. And we were talking a lot about kind of the innovations that come out of Tokyo and they make their way, stateside. And when I was looking up the plush hats just to see if there were any updates, we had talked about Pooh and Tigger and Figment, that you could buy them at Disney World. And in Tokyo right now, there is a ham plush hat from Toy Story that you can pre-order.
Okay.
So keep your fingers crossed, folks. It might make its way. You never know. Or you can pre-order it online right now.
Cool.
But speaking of innovations, I know now we're a couple weeks or a week and a half past CES.
Yeah.
But I wanted to bring that up because I feel like Disney shared something that was pretty unique.
Well, now, for those of you who don't know, the Consumer Electronics Show is held annually in Las Vegas. In fact, I have to say, we, of course, have all been paying attention to the fires in Southern California, and I felt so bad for so many of my friends who had to go out and work that show at the same time because that's their job, and at the same time, what's going on with my house? What's going on with my neighborhood? But again, to pivot back to what was actually discussed and revealed at the Consumer Electronics Show, this is new ad tech from Disney, right?
Yeah, and it's right up my alley, and it is a merch show. So I follow this stuff because I, love anything futuristic, tech related. And so, if you're not like super familiar with CES, like think of all the robots, the wearable, like the eyeglasses now. That was a big one. And I like my personal fave that I saw from CES before we get to Disney was like a Roomba that actually had like a claw that came out of the top and it would like pick up whatever was on the floor and put it in like a bin. I'm like, that'd be super helpful as a mother.
Okay.
Like all I'm doing is picking things up. But anyway, so Disney, came to CES not talking about theme park rides or anything like that. They were talking about their ad tech and their new tech stack that, this was the thing that kind of surprised me that they shared. So looking at Disney Plus, Hulu, ESPN Plus, they announced that they're reaching 157 million global active users or ad viewers, they called them. So the reason it's so surprising that they shared the number is streaming numbers are kind of kept close to the vest. Like
They are.
Nobody is really coming out, and I am sure it's because they don't want to, have to, pay pay the actors. So I was interested to see that. And what they were talking about is really innovating how they are serving ads. AI is a part of everything that is futuristic now, pretty much. And they have their own AI. It's called Disney Select AI. And so what they're aiming to do is to improve the ad serving so that you're getting things that are even more relevant to you. They're trying to, relieve some of the redundancy so you're not like getting the same ad for a Disney cruise like over and over and over again. So they're going to try to make ads more personalized. ESPN specifically is getting an upgrade on their targeted ads. Think sports betting, think like real-time ads based on what is happening in the game. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they're innovating this space, because they're taking like user activity across all three of those platforms to decide what types of ads to serve you. And they even came out with some like new audience groups. Like they're very Disney names. There's like the empathetic escapists, people that, use Disney, relax, escape, social shapers, like, so people that, like to have more customized experiences. So you may or may not notice the types of ads that you get served. You could be talking about planning a Disney cruise, and then you get on Google, they use like audio marketing technology, and now they're, getting you to buy. So I thought it was worth mentioning, because it is totally new. And, speaking of targeted ads, this is almost embarrassing to say because I was just hyping myself up as like a huge tech lover. But Eric showed me yesterday Google Discover on my phone. I was using like, you have an iPhone, don't you?
I do. Mm-hmm.
Do you use Chrome as your browser, like Google Chrome?
Magic 8 Ball says check back later.
The default is Safari.
There we go. So
okay, so Eric just put we just put Google Chrome as my default because that's what I use on all of my other devices. And there's Google Discover, which underneath your search bar it shows you, it's recommended, ads and articles and things based on what you've searched for on Google, because they know everything that you've done. So one of the things that was on my Google Discover, yesterday, a couple days ago, which I thought was interesting, was the 10 most lucrative movie merchandise franchises ever. And I was like, oh, I wonder, like, I thought maybe like Frozen would be number one. And just so you know, this is not exclusive to Disney. This is just the top movie franchises. So do you want to like take a guess of any of like the Disney ones? And don't say Frozen.
Well, I know from the stories, mind you, we're a couple of years past when it was a white hot phenomenon, but Cars was supposedly in somewhere in the top three. Is it still there, or?
Yeah, it is actually. So that was a good guess. Okay, so I'll give you the top 5.
Okay.
So actually, Frozen, my fave, is not even in the top 5. It's 6th, but it was Transformers at number 5 at 7 billion. Then Harry Potter at 4, 7.3 billion. Then Toy Story, 9 billion. Cars, like you said, at 10 billion. And number 1, drum roll, is Star Wars. And it is not even, like, Cars is not even close. Cars was 10 billion. Star Wars, $32 billion. King of merchandising, hands down, from all the little action figure. I mean, like, you could get really anything Star Wars. But does that surprise you?
Not really, though. What's been kind of interesting, and I know you're about to talk about Skeleton Crew, the merch that's available for that, because we just had the final episode of that 8-part series drop. But what's fascinating to me is that there seems to be a disconnect lately between the shows that they're making for Disney Plus and the audience, because that's an intriguing thing. Skeleton Crew got wonderful reviews and people seem to love it. But if you talk with anybody who's tracking the numbers, it's like, the audience didn't turn out. We don't understand what's going on. So, but anyway, speaking of which, that said, though, they still have some charming Skeleton Crew pieces. So, can we talk about those?
Yeah, I mean, just a few, not a ton.
Yep.
But it is there are some, and I'm sure you're going to talk all about Skeleton Crew on Looking at Lucasfilm, so I won't go down that road. I'll keep it more merch. And these are not like I don't typically watch all the Star Wars shows, but Eric was really pressing me on this one. I'm pretty sure it was like every day for 2 weeks. Like, Lauren, you got to watch Skeleton Crew. Like, Lauren, you got to watch Skeleton Crew. And eventually he just wore me down enough. I'm like, okay. And then, quickly we get to meet Neil in like 33 and I'm like, all right, like I'm in. I'm hooked. So I would definitely, 33 is like the charming pirate robot. If you've not watched the show, I'm like, I could definitely, get a 33
By the way,
shirt.
What's so funny about that, and I didn't notice this is Brian Gunn that put it together. Okay. His actual designation is SM33. But if you realize that the 3 3s are actually E, say that name again.
SME?
And who's Captain Hook's good?
Oh my gosh, it's me. That's so great.
Isn't that great? Wow.
Oh my gosh, that's so great. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's so great. Oh, yes, but love the show. So the couple pieces of merch, I don't get sometimes like what they're putting the money into for, Disney consumer products, but hopefully we'll get some of those folks on to tell us a little bit more of their strategy at some point.
That would be great.
But we have a regular, like the kind of movie poster-esque t-shirt. It's $30. They have the silhouettes of the actual Skeleton Crew, and that's $40 for the sweatshirt. A t-shirt with SM33 or Shmee. That's so funny. For $30. And then Lego has the Onyx Cinder, which is the ship, right?
Yeah. And I wonder if they allow you to make it in both configurations, because again, we've seen the ship transform on a recent episode.
Yes. I was wondering that myself. So, and which actually kind of reminds me, I just have to go back to CSS for 1 second. Did you see it's like the Tesla van?
No.
I'm assuming not. Okay, so this van that Tesla came out with, the back of it literally opens up just like this ship, and like this little helicopter comes out that you can fly. It very much reminded me of the ship from the Skeleton Crew.
Wow. Okay.
It's real. Google it.
I will do that as soon as we finish up here tonight. Holy cow.
Yeah, it's crazy. But anyway, so we got finished with Skeleton Crew and we've been looking for something to watch. And so then, I talk about my 14-year-old daughter all the time, Lainey, and she was on Eric and I about watching High School Musical.
Wow. Okay. What brought that on?
I have honestly no idea where it came from. I have to say it's probably because I think I've mentioned before that my kids are really big, like, Descendants, like The Rise of Red, Zombies, like the made for TV Disney movies. They really, really like them. And none of us, Lainey, Eric, or myself, have seen High School Musical. So 2 nights ago, we were like, all right, let's do it. Let's see what all like the crazy hype was about. It was the way that Eric described it, because I was like, this is kind of awful. And I like those movies. He was like, listen, High School Musical had to walk so that zombies could run.
Okay. And And there is definitely an interesting story there, which, by the way, we will get to on the second half of today's show. But first, this.
Llévate más de lo que esperas todos los días con el nuevo McValue en McDonald's. Ahora puedes comprar uno y sumarle otro por $1. Así que cuando tu equipo favorito enfrente a sus rivales, enfrenta tus antojos con $5 Meal Deals. Y si estás corriendo para alcanzar el desayuno, corre al app para llevarte ofertas antes del cutoff. Tú decides, y con McValue, tu decisión siempre rinde más. Precios y participación pueden variar. BOGO $1 válido para un producto de igual o menor valor. Debe estar registrado en Rewards para ofertas en el app.
Sergeant and Mr. Smith, you're gonna love this house.
Bunk beds in a closet?
There's no field manual for finding the right home. But when you do, USAA Homeowners Insurance can help protect it the right way. Restrictions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
And we're back. Okay, so I gotta say, Lainey did a great job here because, again, High School Musical actually celebrating an anniversary today. January 20th, 2006 is when High School Musical debuted on the Disney Channel. And this is something that had been in the works since 2004, a film to be directed and choreographed by Kenny Ortega. And but the interesting thing is that a lot of folks, if you ask them, would tell you that, well, obviously High School Musical has to have been the first Disney Channel original musical.
That's what I thought. Absolutely.
And it's not. Actually, the one that preceded it, The Cheetah Girls, debuted in August of 2003. And again, became this monstrous hit. It was the #1 basic cable telecast of that year. And first Cheetah Girls movie debuted with 6.5 million viewers, which was a record for the Disney Channel at that time. And soundtrack sold very well, made it as high as the 33rd spot on Billboard 200. And that, by the way, may not sound like an impressive number. That was still good enough to be certified double platinum, and the DVD sold well as well. 800,000 copies sold. So obviously Disney Channel, looking at that, they want a sequel to the Cheetah Girls, and they want it fast. Problem is, Lauren, that Raven Simone, one of the stars of the original Cheetah Girls, her sitcom, That's So Raven, had only just debuted on the Disney Channel in January of 2003. At some 7 months before the first Cheetah Girls movie debuts on that same basic cable channel. And so this is now executives at the Disney company sort of, all right, there's only one Raven Simone, and we want not only a sequel to the Cheetah Girls, but we'd also love to have a season 2 and a season 3 of That's So Raven. So they have to work out some sort of a schedule that allows them to get an additional episodes of their new hit sitcom and get a sequel for the Cheetah Girls in production. And so with that scheduling challenge, what the folks at the Disney Channel decided, all right, I'll tell you what, we're going to need the stall. So let's get another musical Disney Channel original movie in the works. And already they're planning to do something special with the Cheetah Girls sequel. They're actually going to shoot it in Spain. In fact, that's, by the way, that was the original subtitle of Cheetah Girls 2. It's like, when in Spain. But the thinking with the executives at the Disney Channel is, all right, whatever we're doing with the Cheetah Girls, this other musical we're going to do should be the polar opposite. So it's like, okay, instead of shooting overseas, this one should be shot stateside. not to mention it should be shot on the cheap because Cheetah Girls sequel, shooting in Spain, going to be expensive. So this meant not only not shooting the second musical in New York or LA, because again, you're dealing with the unions, but those are pricey studios to shoot in. So they decided to go with that bustling capital of movie musicals, Utah. And that was largely because the state of Utah at that time was offering huge tax breaks to movies and TV shows that would come shoot in that state. And so, again, for this second Disney Channel movie, which again was just supposed to come out and stall till Cheetah Girls 2 came out, had to be shot quickly so it could air out ahead of Cheetah Girls 2. And it had to be inexpensive. So here, Disney Channel executives looking for something cheap to produce, and Peter Barsocchini had written the script in 2004. And by the way, Gabrielle, the name of the lead character in High School Musical, same name as Peter's daughter. In fact, supposedly all of the characters of size in High School Musical are named after Gabrielle's friends in real life. Just so you know.
No way.
Yep. So
that's cool.
But Peter writes this, and again, it's a really simple story. It's about a jock who finds himself falling for a nerd who's good at science, and what Peter thought was really funny is that the villain of this, because face it, anytime you see like Revenge of the Nerds, the jocks are the villains, and he thought, what would be really interesting? What if the villain was a theater kid? He's like, oh my God, the mean theater kids! Oh, stay away from them. And the executive Disney are like, oh, this is perfect. Okay, it's a musical set in high school, and Utah wants us to come shoot there, which means we can shoot this during the summer when they've got empty high schools. So I mean, this is great. It's convenient, it's affordable. So they reach out to director choreographer Kenny Ortega, and he casts this crew of talented young performers. And they actually do shoot High School Musical at 2 high schools in Salt Lake City. There's East High School. In fact, kind of interesting that the T-shirt you were just talking about is from East High School. Is that right?
We didn't talk about the T-shirt, but you can get a High School Musical T-shirt right now on the Disney Store. It's half price for $13, and it is East High.
Well, there we go. My mistake. I jumped ahead here. Okay. But anyway, okay. So, and the interesting thing is Disney executives are watching the rushes and the footage that Kenny is shooting out there at Salt Lake, and they're so enjoying what he's doing that as soon as he finishes shooting High School Musical, they're like, by the way, we now want you to go direct in Spain, Cheetah Girls 2. So again, just to recap here, Disney's Channel's real priority is the Cheetah Girls sequel, which is slated to debut on that cable channel in August of 2006. And High School Musical is really kind of the throwaway project. In fact, Lauren, I want you to bear me out here. In the relatively recent past, because February, May, and November were sweeps months, in television, you tended to dump things in January, right? If you put something on in January, it wasn't necessarily expected to do especially well in the ratings.
You are exactly right.
Okay.
You kind of hold your best stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you hold your best stuff for again, February, May, or November. So High School Musical debuts on the Disney Channel, again, on January 20th, 2006. And something extraordinary happens. It becomes the most commercially successful Disney Channel original film in history. 7.7 million kids tune in to watch the premiere of this thing. And now you have to understand that Bob Iger had only just replaced Michael Eisner as Disney CEO back on September 30th of 2005. So he's only been on the job for 3.5 months at this point when High School Musical happens. And Bob takes one look at that, and it's like, we're going to ride that pig as far as it can go. So they then begin running High School Musical on the Disney Channel endlessly. And then the soundtrack comes out, and it makes it all the way to the #1 spot on the Billboard 200. And then they do the sing-along version on the Disney Channel, and that does as well, if not better, than the original. And so Iger then decides, you know what we're going to do? We're going to send these kids out on tour. And by the way, just to double back to what you were saying top of the show today about zombies and descendants, we have the zombies and descendants world tour headed out this summer, isn't it?
We got our tickets already. Yep, Worlds Collide. We'll be there.
There we go.
So like Eric said, they had to walk so that, zombies and descendants could run, and they're running out on tour.
Well, but now here's the interesting about High School Musical, the concert tour. Okay, it announces in the late spring, early summer of 2006, and actually hits the road on November 29th of that year. Kicks off in San Diego, California. The tour then continues till January 28th, 2007. So it's a relatively tight 60 days. But inside of that, Lauren, these kids who, by the way, the cast is made up of all of the original cast members from High School Musical. The only one who didn't take part was Zac Efron, and he couldn't because he was already shooting the movie version of Hairspray at that point. So Drew Seeley, who by the way, had one of the worst kept secrets, he sang a number of the parts in the original High School Musical that Zac Efron just couldn't. For his,
Did he really?
Yep, the Troy Bolton character. There were just some things that Efron can do, and Seeley stepped in, but he stood in for him in the show. But inside of that 60-day period from November to January, these kids did 42 concert dates in North America and an additional 10 dates in Latin America.
I hope they were all over 18, because that's like a child labor concern, I think.
But it gets so much worse, okay? What's important to understand here is that the performances of the concert tour, they wrap on January 28th, 2007. And then the cast, which, by the way, has been performing on stage duplicate choreography from the original High School Musical TV movie. They then go straight into rehearsals for High School Musical 2, which has to begin shooting again in Utah on March 7th of that same year. They then wrap production just 2 months later on May 8th, and this now completed film airs on the Disney Channel August 17th.
Of that same year?
3 months and change. All right. Now, I want to bring up, there was a book that came out in September of last year, 2024. It's called Disney High. It's by Ashley Spencer, and the subtitle of this book is The Rise and Fall of Disney Tween Empire. And Lucas Grabale, who played, he's Sharpay's twin brother Ryan.
Yeah.
Okay. He was telling the story about being in the concert tour version of High School Musical, and how every night in the show he had to repeat the backflip that he did in the first High School Musical movie, and how, again, he had to do it 52 times live on stage, and how he actually blew out his back, which is why, again, I know you've just already watched High School Musical 2, but if Lainey ever wants to circle back on it, pay attention to the outfits that Ryan's wearing, because every so often you can see his back brace. That the poor guy is performing injured.
Oh, wow. Well, now I'm going to have to go back and look for it.
All right. But here's the thing. High School Musical 2, it's a sequel. How well could it do? It becomes the highest rated cable broadcast film in history, with over 17 million people viewing the thing, which then leads to High School Musical, the stage show, and High School Musical, the theme park show. And let's not forget about, by the way, have you guys watched this one yet? High School Musical 3 Senior Year?
Oh, no, that's next.
Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised if when I get off here, if Lainey's like, are we watching the third one?
Well, but the interesting thing about that one, that didn't even go on the Disney Channel. Disney sent that out into theaters in October of 2008, where first weekend it's in theaters in North America, it sells $90 million worth of tickets, and then goes on to sell $250 million worth of tickets worldwide. And the kicker, the absolute kicker of the story, Lauren, is, remember, Disney did all of this, set the High School Musical thing in motion because they didn't want to stretch Raven-Symoné too thin. Because, again, the worry was if we do That's So Raven and the Cheetah Girls sequel too close together, something bad's going to happen. And it turned out something bad happened anyway. Raven-Symoné had such a miserable time shooting Cheetah Girls, the sequel, in Spain, that when it came time to shoot Cheetah Girls 3, and I want to say that's Cheetah Girls World Tour, she refused to come back, which effectively kneecapped the franchise. So again, long story short, Disney tried to do right by its teen stars, because again, I think as you just mentioned, child labor laws, and it bit them in the butt.
But happy accident, High School Musical.
There we
Extremely
go.
happy for Bob Iger.
Mm-hmm. Yes, billions made, and even to this day, as you mentioned, with the Zombies Descendants World Collide going on, all of the lessons that were learned, in marketing and merchandising, we are seeing now with those two franchises. And so where are you catching Worlds Collide?
We're going to Pittsburgh. It's in August.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So the kids got tickets for Christmas, and they're beyond stoked. Yeah, and the Rise of Red Christmas song was like playing on repeat in my house. And I'm like, okay, we're in January. Like, we need to, like, let's pick something else. And I do think that it is wild that you can still buy on the Disney Store a High School Musical t-shirt, like, all these years later. Even though, I mean, it is on clearance, but still.
Yeah. Now, well, again, remember there was High School Musical the series on Disney Plus until just recently.
Wasn't it like High School Musical the musical, or that's what it was? That's what the t-shirt is High School Musical the musical. That's what it is. Yes. Okay. Well, on that note, sir, I think that it's time we close up shop for today. If you want to stay up to date with everything happening across the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network, you can find us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, X. That's where we post all of the updates and the news from all the shows, so you won't miss a thing. And while you're at it, leave us a review. It really helps to support the show, to support the network, and it means a lot to us.
Absolutely. And don't forget, if you've got questions or suggestions for future episodes of I Want That Too, we would love to hear from you. And you can reach myself or Lauren on social media, or just email us directly. You can get me at jim@jimhillmedia.com, and you can reach Lauren at laurenhersey.com.
Yes, thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time on I Want That Too.